Hello guys, Hard MMA 13 here, back with another video. This is the first news video I've done for a while about recent MMA events, but this has just really been bugging me over the past few days. I've seen a lot of people in comments after the recent UFC 317 pay-per-view saying that Paddy versus ILIA should not be next and it should be Arman Tsarukyan. Now, for one, that's like a ridiculous shout, to be honest with you. I think when people say that Arman Tsarukyan deserves the next shot, they're thinking like it's the Arman Tsarukyan who had like an exciting fight with Gamrot a million years ago. Arman Tsarukyan had a bar fest against Charles Oliveira. He looked terrible against Jacqueline Silva when he fought. People forget about that fight. You know, like, against Silva, who's an absolute bum. He nearly got knocked out in the first round and then somehow rallied back. If that happened to Paddy, people would be calling him a bum. I mean, he had a close decision with Jared Gordon and people were calling him a bum. And I think people kind of use a lot of emotion when discussing fights, and I understand that. Like, I hate Ian Garry, I hate a lot of fighters, and I get a bit emotional and I'm unfair when I'm, like, critiquing them. But to be honest with you, like, there isn't a UFC fighter in history who, if you look back on the rise, didn't have a bad fight. Like, Khabib against Tebow, terrible performance, could have lost that. Ilia Topuria himself against Jai Herbert. Ilia Topuria was as close to getting flatline knocked out with that head kick by Jai Herbert as you could be. Like, really. I mean, the only thing is Jai Herbert's like not really got that vicious instinct and didn't capitalise quick enough or viciously enough. That could have easily been the end of Ilia Topuria on the prelims of a UFC London fight night. Like, Paddy's never been knocked down so far in his UFC career. We've never really seen him in trouble in his UFC career. In the Jared Gordon fight, he was never in trouble. It was just a bad performance when he broke his ankle in the first round. Like, I don't see, like, where the critique comes from. He's had a pretty smooth, like, rise. Like, Ian Garry, for example, who I hate, he got knocked down in his career against Chinese, Ziliang, whatever his name is. Paddy's had a pretty flawless rise, to be honest with you. I mean, the Jared Gordon fight, a close decision. I mean, people nowadays, I think, are even coming around to the fact maybe he did win that fight because, and he had a broken ankle in that fight, like, and still won against a guy in Jared Gordon who just had an amazing flatline, pretty much walk away knockout against a very top fighter in flipping, what's he called, Moises. So people are, I think, really getting the wrong end of the stick. This Paddy v Ilia fight is like one of them moments where both of these guys could have easily not been in this position. Ilia could have been knocked out early in that fight against Jai Herbert, and Paddy could have lost the Jared Gordon decision on another night. And then we've finally got this like massive fight where two people are getting in the cage and actually have a bit of a rivalry. And people are like, "Ooh, Ilia's above this, he's above this." We don't know if Volkanovski would have not lost against anyone that night in the circumstances where Ilia knocked him out. I mean, Diego Lopez hurt Volk in his last fight, you know. I don't think that would have happened to him before that Islam fight, you know. I think it'd have been a similar performance to the Yair Rodriguez fight where Volk just dominated him, whereas Diego Lopez caused him problems in that fight. He may be the same guy, Volk, you know, and he was better for that fight because he took the time out. When he fought Ilia, he did a quick turnaround and he still hadn't recovered from the knockout. And he was piecing up Ilia before he got beat. He was winning that fight before losing by knockout. So I just think people are just like quick to call people the GOAT and everything. I think Paddy could win that fight. I'm not I'm not a Paddy super fan, but obviously I'm a fan of him because, you know, he's a British guy, but he's an English guy. But I'm not like one of these people who thinks he's unbeatable, like these Topuria fans. I mean, I think Paddy isn't the best fighter in the UFC, but I think he could beat Ilia Topuria. Islam Makhachev, I wouldn't pick to beat Paddy pretty easily. But I think Ilia Topuria, with the size advantage, the fact that Paddy's just a lot more flexible, I think. Ilia's got that stocky build, Paddy's got that more flexible, loose build. It'd be like a Tony Ferguson-McGregor kind of fight. Like, if that had happened in their primes, that's how I see this fight stylistically. Paddy's like the Tony Ferguson, the tough guy who can take shots. He's actually become quite durable of recent times since that Tony Ferguson fight. Ironically, he looked very durable against Chandler, even at a high pace. And Chandler got the takedowns. Paddy still didn't look tired. It didn't like Paddy had it all his own way. So I see that being like what a McGregor-Ferguson fight in the prime would have looked like. And Are you telling me if we could have ever had a fight like a McGregor versus Ferguson fight, you wouldn't have took that? Well, that's the kind of fight I feel like we're sacrificing here. This could be an absolute war. Not many people have got as much of a good chin and are as durable as Paddy. And I feel like that alone, without the fact that I actually think he's got some skills that can cause Topuria trouble, is a reason to want this fight. So, I know I'm ranting, but it's just really been annoying me. Like, some of these MMA fans, like, they're just so stupid. Like, they just got the most basic takes ever, like ILIA in 1 round. Like, maybe we'll rewind if this fight does happen later this year and I'll look stupid, but I actually think there's no way. One thing I'd say in my head is guaranteed is this fight is going past 1 round. It's probably going to go to the 3rd or 4th round at the very least. It's ILIA Topuria is not, for want of a better word, like someone who can, like, people compare him to McGregor, but he hasn't got like that slick running in right hand that he connects with. He's more of like someone who closes the cage off and cuts the angles, and then he'll land a shot in the pocket. He isn't as slick as people seem to make out he is. And when he gets pressured by people who are doing it more educated and not like Charles coming in like a retard with his hands like that, when he's in his tie stance, Charles, like, he looks like he's got a bit more of his defense. But when he's like sometimes about to set up a shot, he seems to really overextend his chin in the air. And that's where he obviously got knocked out there. I mean, he put his chin that far in the air. I had people saying, was he going for a clinch there? No, that's just what he does. If you watch Charles in his fights, Paddy, if he like does the educated pressure that someone like Jai Herbert did, who's also a lanky, rangy guy, and throws kicks, man, I'm telling you, Topuria is going to get very, very uncomfortable. And I honestly, I'm not sure I'd pick him in the fight, but if that fight got booked for this year, November, December, I don't know what I'd pick right now, because I think ILIA Topuria is getting glazed way too much by people. And I think it comes for 2 things. The fact that everyone's obsessed with like this like boxer being a champion in the UFC. And then I think the other thing is that people really, really kind of latched onto William, fell into the trap of thinking, oh, he had that rivalry with Paddy, look at him now. And it's like this cool story to see that he was on the prelims of like UFC London throwing a punch at Paddy, getting it with an hand sanitizer, and now he's on apparent pound for pound #1 GOAT status. Anyway, I think it's a tough fight. I think it's a close fight. I think it's the best fight the UFC can make now that Jones Aspinall just isn't possible. I think any UFC fan who thinks this fight is pointless or thinks Arman's a better fight, and if anyone thinks Gaethje's the better fight, you actually are stupid, because that genuinely is a style matchup where that fight is more or less pointless, because Ilya would absolutely clean Gaethje. Paddy has a style, I'm telling you, what can make for an interesting fight where we can actually have conversations and we can argue over who's going to win. Gaethje fight, it's simple. Gaethje's retarded. He's going to get knocked out by the younger, faster, more powerful man. The Arman Tsarukyan fight, if Arman Tsarukyan wins the fight, because Arman is skilled, what's even exciting about that? Imagine Arman Tsarukyan destroys Topuria. Is that really what we've done all this build-up for with Topuria and glazed him so much for, so he can get beat by Arman Tsarukyan? I mean, if Paddy wins, he's a global superstar. He probably already is, at least in Europe. You know, he's not just a star in England. You know, he's a big star all over Europe, and America is a relatively big star as far as fighters go. So, I mean, and if Ilya wins, then maybe he can become even bigger than he is now. But at this point in time, I think this is the fight to make. I'm really getting tired of just people. I'm getting tired of waiting for these fights, because you have to listen to all the stupid retard. I sounded like Alan off fucking Hangover then, retard. The stupid retarded MMA fans who just like say the most NPC comments ever. Like, I wish Dana would just like say this fight's happening next, whatever fight it is. If he don't make the Paddy fight, and I watched that thing back as well, what people are trying to say, Dana said that's not the fight. No, it wasn't. He was talking about Ilya's wife and kids being in the cage, and he was saying that's not the fight. He was kind of stuttering over his words, because he was saying that's not the fight that happened, so it shouldn't be done on there. It should be left until there is an announcement. So that's what he meant by that. Dana, announce it. Like, then we won't have to do this speculation. We can have the press conferences, world tour. We can have one in England, we can have one in Spain, we can have one in New York or Vegas, wherever the fight's taking place later this year in November or December. So anyway, I hope this fight gets made. I honestly think whoever wins this fight is going to reach McGregor status, like, from that point. Because if Paddy wins, he's already a big star. And if he beats Topuria, I don't think there's really many stars left in that division he can't beat, because Islam's gone now. And Sarukian, he's probably the hardest matchup, and he's probably not going to get a shot even after that, because the hype of Paddy by beating Topuria would just be so big. Sarukian would just be such a fucking downer. So they probably wouldn't give him that. It'd probably make Sarukian, like, go to the PFL or something. And then you've got ILIA Topuria. If he wins, he's going to be a massive star like he has become. And he's got an amazing fight with Makhachev going up. Because I think if he wins, he'd probably be likely to go straight up. Whereas if Paddy wins, I think he'd stay at lightweight and probably fight some of the big names there that are coming up. Like a Rufi Bar then could be in the picture and be a name. You know, there's excitement in the lightweight division, man, so don't stall it out by, like, wanting, like, either the young King Gaethje to fight or wanting the most boring personality fighter who sounds like low-budget off-brand Borat, Arman Sarukian, who literally can't even entertain a fucking... He can't even entertain his own family. I won't be surprised if, when he's talking to them, they just say, all right, Arman, just go back to your yacht. Rich boy. So, I mean, anyway, I'm going to go and leave this one now, but I hope people agree. I am genuinely just so confident that what I'm saying is the right thing, so even if you don't agree, I don't care, but this fight needs to happen. Whether you hate Paddy, whether you think it's undeserved, it's literally just as good as the route ILIA had. That's the last thing, I'm glad I mentioned that. It's reminded me, one of the main points I want to make in this video. ILIA Topuria got a title shot off of beating Bryce Mitchell and Josh Emmett. Paddy Pimblett, are they really not that? Are they miles away from being comparable to Bobby Green and then Michael Chandler? Bryce Mitchell, Bobby Green, right? Similar kind of status in UFC. Have beaten some good names. Bobby Green's probably beaten the better names. He's beaten, like, Grant Dawson. He's beaten people like fucking Nasrat Haqparast. You know, we're top fighters now. So, Bobby Green and then Michael Chandler, right? ILIA beat Bryce Mitchell. Let's say he's the Bobby Green in this situation. And then he beat Josh Emmett. Let's say he's the Michael Chandler. I mean, in Josh Emmett, like, the absolute image of Chandler, stocky wrestler with explosive knockout power, but is shit technically and gets pieced up. Like, that's literally the same path. And then to top it off, Paddy actually beat Tony Ferguson, who was actually a legend, even though he was shit. Name-wise, that's better than anyone ILIA beat before them two fights. And then to top it off, he beat Jared Gordon, who's just knocked out Moises and has beat names before. And it was a close fight, but he beat him. So, I find it crazy, the snobbery of some of these UFC fans, man. ILIA Topuria had just as easy a path to the title as Paddy. And obviously, you could say Islam, he got it off Bobby Green, but Islam actually did beat some contenders. People are calling ILIA the GOAT, man. He's nowhere near even Islam's level, resume-wise or fight-wise, because I think Islam has destroyed Topuria. So anyway, that's my points. I'm glad I remembered that last one, because I think that's the main one, and that's what I want to end this with. Anyone wants to talk in the comments or argue with me, put your thoughts in the comments, but I want you to argue with any of the things I've just said here, especially that last point. I want anyone to tell me if how ILIA's like road to the title shot was any harder than Paddy's. Any like more amazing. I don't think it was. Paddy got one of the best submissions of 2024 against Bobby Green. ILIA Topuria got a decision over Josh Emmett, and then Paddy destroyed Michael Chandler, who literally is probably in the top 5, at least top 10 names in the lightweight division. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Like and subscribe. I'm out. Thanks.